History whispers to us. It speaks of triumphs and tragedies. It tells of decisions that shaped our world. This week in October, we journey back in time. We explore moments that resonate even today. From October 20th to 26th, we encounter pivotal events. The past is not merely a collection of dates and names. It's a tapestry woven with threads of consequence, each event a ripple effect across time. Join us as we unravel these threads. We'll delve into the stories behind the headlines. We'll meet the people who shaped these moments, and we'll explore how their actions continue to echo in our own time. In the early 1800s, the United States was a young nation. Its reach extended westward to the Mississippi River. Beyond lay a vast and unknown territory. This was the Louisiana Territory. It was a land of mystery and promise. Rumors swirled of fertile lands, abundant wildlife, and Native American tribes with rich cultures. For President Thomas Jefferson, this territory held a vision. Jefferson saw the potential for expansion. He dreamed of a nation that stretched from coast to coast. He believed in the destiny of the United States to cultivate this new frontier. In 1803, Napoleon faced a dilemma. War with Great Britain loomed. He needed funds for his military campaigns, and his dreams of a North American empire were fading. Meanwhile, the United States was eager to secure access to the Mississippi River. The river was a vital trade route for the growing nation. Jefferson sent representatives to France. Their mission was to negotiate the purchase of New Orleans. But Napoleon, in a surprising move, offered the entire Louisiana Territory. The price, $15 million. The American delegation, though initially hesitant, recognized the historic opportunity. They agreed to the purchase. On October 20th, 1803, the United States Senate ratified the Louisiana Purchase. With a stroke of a pen, the nation's territory doubled in size. It was a momentous occasion. The Louisiana Purchase had profound implications. It opened up vast lands for exploration and settlement. It fueled westward expansion and the nation's growing economic power. The purchase also raised questions about the fate of Native American tribes living in the territory. It sparked debates about the balance of power between the federal government and the states. But one thing was certain. The Louisiana Purchase had fundamentally altered the course of American history. It set the stage for the nation's rise as a continental power. The Louisiana Purchase ignited the spirit of westward expansion. Pioneers, adventurers, and settlers were drawn to the allure of the frontier. They sought land, opportunity, and a fresh start. The journey westward was fraught with challenges. Harsh weather, rugged terrain, and conflicts with Native American tribes tested the limits of human endurance. But the pioneers persevered. They established farms, built towns, and forged new lives. The Louisiana Purchase fueled the growth of the United States. It shaped the nation's character and its destiny. But the expansion westward also came at a cost. It led to the displacement and dispossession of Native American tribes. It raised questions about the ethics of manifest destiny. These are questions that continue to resonate today. The year was 1973. America was embroiled in the Vietnam War. Distrust in the government ran deep, and in Washington, D.C., a scandal was brewing. It began with a break-in at the Watergate Hotel, the target the Democratic National Committee headquarters. The burglars were connected to President Richard Nixon's re-election campaign. The Watergate scandal, as it became known, shocked the nation. It revealed a dark underbelly of political espionage, abuse of power, and obstruction of justice. At the center of the storm was President Nixon. A shrewd politician, he had won re-election by a landslide. Investigating the Watergate break-in was Archibald Cox, a Harvard law professor appointed as special prosecutor. Cox was relentless in his pursuit of the truth. He issued subpoenas demanding Nixon surrender tape recordings made in the Oval Office. Nixon, fearing the tapes would incriminate him, refused. He ordered the Attorney General to fire Cox. The Attorney General refused and resigned. His deputy also refused and resigned. Finally, on the evening of October 20th, Nixon found someone willing to carry out his order. The Solicitor General fired Cox. This dramatic chain of events became known as the Saturday Night Massacre. The nation was stunned. Nixon's actions were seen as a blatant attempt to obstruct justice. The Saturday Night Massacre backfired spectacularly. It fueled public outrage and calls for impeachment. The Saturday Night Massacre marked a turning point in the Watergate scandal. It eroded public trust in Nixon and strengthened the resolve of his opponents. The House of Representatives began impeachment proceedings. Nixon, facing mounting pressure, eventually released transcripts of the tapes. But the transcripts were heavily edited. The public demanded the unedited tapes. The Supreme Court, in a landmark ruling, ordered Nixon to hand over the tapes. The tapes revealed Nixon's involvement in the cover-up. Facing impeachment and certain removal from office, Nixon resigned on August 9, 1974. The Watergate scandal left a lasting scar on American politics. It eroded public trust in government and raised questions about the abuse of power. It also demonstrated the strength of democratic institutions. Even a president is not above the law. The Cold War, a global standoff between superpowers. The United States and the Soviet Union locked in an ideological battle. Each side possessed a terrifying arsenal, nuclear weapons. In 1962, the world watched with bated breath. The Cold War was about to reach a fever pitch. The flashpoint, a small island nation just 90 miles off the coast of Florida, Cuba. Cuba had recently undergone a revolution. Fidel Castro, a charismatic revolutionary, had seized power. He aligned himself with the Soviet Union. The US saw this as a threat, a communist foothold in the Caribbean. Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev saw an opportunity. He decided to secretly deploy nuclear missiles to Cuba. These missiles could reach the United States in minutes. The stakes had never been higher. Section 2, 13 Days of Crisis. On October 14, 1962, a US spy plane made a chilling discovery. Aerial photographs revealed the unmistakable presence of Soviet missile sites under construction in Cuba. The news sent shockwaves through Washington. President John F. Kennedy assembled a crisis team. The ExComm, they were called, the Executive Committee of the National Security Council. Their task? To advise the president on how to respond to this unprecedented threat. On October 22nd, Kennedy addressed the nation. In a televised speech, he revealed the existence of the Soviet missiles. He declared a naval blockade of Cuba to prevent further shipments of weapons. The world held its breath. For 13 agonizing days, the world teetered on the brink of nuclear war. The US and the Soviet Union exchanged tense messages. Military forces on high alert. The threat of annihilation hung heavy in the air. Section 3. Brinkmanship and Resolution. The Cuban Missile Crisis became a test of nerves, a game of high-stakes poker, each side probing for weakness, unwilling to back down. The world watched, praying for a peaceful resolution. Behind the scenes, secret negotiations were taking place. Kennedy and Khrushchev communicating through back channels. Both leaders understood the catastrophic consequences of a nuclear exchange. Finally, a breakthrough. Khrushchev agreed to remove the missiles from Cuba. In return, the US promised not to invade Cuba and to secretly remove its own missiles from Turkey. The crisis was averted. The Cuban Missile Crisis was a pivotal moment in the Cold War. It demonstrated the terrifying potential consequences of nuclear confrontation. It also underscored the importance of diplomacy and communication in diffusing international crises. Section 1. The Roaring Twenties. The 1920s in America. A time of prosperity and excess. The Roaring Twenties, they called it. Jazz music filled the air. Skyscrapers pierced the sky. And the stock market? It soared to new heights. Americans were caught up in the excitement. They invested heavily in the stock market. Many borrowed money to buy stocks, confident that prices would continue to rise. The boom seemed unstoppable. But beneath the surface, trouble was brewing. Income inequality was widening. Farmers were struggling, and industries were producing more goods than consumers could buy. The boom was built on shaky ground. Warning signs appeared. Stock prices began to fluctuate. Some investors, sensing danger, started selling their shares. But the optimism of the Roaring Twenties was hard to shake. Many believed the good times would last forever. October 24th, 1929, a day that will forever be etched in history. Black Thursday, the day the stock market crashed, the beginning of the end of the Roaring Twenties. It began with a wave of selling on the New York Stock Exchange. As stock prices tumbled, panic set in. Investors rushed to sell their shares, but there were few buyers. The market spiraled downwards. News of the crash spread like wildfire. Across the country, people gathered around radios, listening in disbelief. The stock market, once a symbol of prosperity, had become a symbol of fear. Millions of Americans lost their life savings. Banks, heavily invested in the market, collapsed. Businesses shut down. Unemployment soared. The American dream turned into a nightmare. The stock market crash of 1929 ushered in the Great Depression, the worst economic downturn in modern history. It was a global crisis, but its impact on the United States was profound. The unemployment rate soared to 25%. 1 in 4 Americans were out of work. Families lost their homes, their farms, their dignity. Bread lines stretched for blocks. Soup kitchens struggled to keep up with the demand. The Dust Bowl, a severe drought that ravaged the Midwest, compounded the misery. Farmers already struggling were forced off their land. Many migrated west, seeking work and a glimmer of hope. The Great Depression tested the fabric of American society. It challenged the nation's spirit, but it also sparked a wave of social and political change. It led to the New Deal, a series of programs and reforms aimed at providing relief, recovery, and reform. The year is 1945. World War II, a conflict that engulfed the globe, has finally ended. The cost of victory, staggering. Millions dead, cities in ruins, a world grappling with the horrors it had inflicted upon itself. From the ashes of this devastating war, a new idea emerged, a vision for a different kind of world. A world where nations would work together, not against each other. A world where peace, not conflict, would prevail. This vision found its embodiment in San Francisco. Delegates from 50 nations gathered, determined to create a new international order. Their goal? To prevent future wars and to build a more just and equitable world. They called it the United Nations, a bold experiment in international cooperation. A forum where nations, large and small, could come together to address shared challenges and to build a better future for all. Section 2. A New Hope. On October 24, 1945, the UN Charter came into force. The United Nations was officially born. Its mission? To maintain international peace and security, to develop friendly relations among nations, and to promote social progress and human rights. The UN structure reflected its commitment to collective action. At its heart was the Security Council, tasked with maintaining peace and security. Its 5 permanent members, the United States, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, France and China, held veto power. The General Assembly, where all member states had an equal voice, provided a forum for debate and discussion. Specialized agencies focused on issues like health, education, and economic development aimed to improve lives around the world. The creation of the United Nations was a beacon of hope in a world still reeling from war. It represented a collective desire for peace, a rejection of the horrors that had just unfolded. But the path ahead would be far from easy. Section 3. Shaping the World. The early years of the United Nations were marked by both successes and challenges. The Cold War cast a long shadow, often hindering the UN's ability to act decisively. Yet the organization played a vital role in shaping the post-war world. It oversaw the decolonization process, granting independence to numerous former colonies. It launched peacekeeping missions to help resolve conflicts and prevent violence, and it provided humanitarian aid to those in need, from refugees fleeing war to victims of natural disasters. The UN also became a forum for international dialogue and cooperation on a wide range of issues. From disarmament to human rights, from climate change to sustainable development, the UN provided a platform for nations to come together and address shared challenges. The United Nations, though far from perfect, has played a crucial role in shaping the world we live in today. It has helped to prevent another world war, has advanced human rights, and has fostered international cooperation on a scale never before seen. Section 1. The Wild West, the American West, a land of rugged beauty, vast plains, towering mountains, and a spirit of adventure. But it was also a land of lawlessness. Boomtowns sprang up, drawing people from all walks of life. Saloons overflowed with whiskey and card games. Disputes were often settled with a gun. Law enforcement struggled to maintain order. In this volatile world, legends were born. Section 2. Showdown at the OK Corral, Tombstone, Arizona, a silver mining boomtown notorious for its lawlessness. It was here on October 26, 1881, that one of the most famous gunfights in American history took place. The OK Corral, a narrow lot behind the Fly's boarding house. It was here that Wyatt Earp, his brothers Virgil and Morgan, and their friend Doc Holliday faced off against the Clanton Gang. The gunfight lasted only 30 seconds, but in that half-minute, over 30 shots were fired. When the smoke cleared, 3 members of the Clanton Gang lay dead. Virgil and Morgan Earp were wounded, as was Doc Holliday. Only Wyatt Earp escaped unscathed. The gunfight at the OK Corral became an instant legend. It was a clash of good versus evil, law versus lawlessness. Newspapers across the country sensationalized the story, turning the participants into folk heroes and villains. Section 3. Legacy of a gunfight. The gunfight at the OK Corral has been the subject of countless books, movies, and television shows. It has become a defining moment in the mythology of the Wild West, capturing the spirit of a time when justice was often delivered at gunpoint. But the gunfight was also a tragedy. It was a reminder of the violence that plagued the frontier. It shattered families and left a legacy of bloodshed. Today, the OK Corral is a tourist destination. Visitors can walk the streets of Tombstone, visit the site of the gunfight, and even witness reenactments of that fateful day. The gunfight at the OK Corral may be a relic of the past, but it continues to fascinate us. It reminds us of a time when the West was wild, when justice was often elusive, and when legends were born in the blink of an eye. Section 1. The enduring power of the past. This week in October, we've journeyed through time. We've witnessed moments that shaped America, moments that reverberate even today. From the Louisiana Purchase to the Watergate scandal, from the brink of nuclear war to the depths of economic depression. These events, separated by decades, are threads in the tapestry of history. They remind us that the past is never truly past. It shapes our present, it influences our future. Understanding history is not just about memorizing dates, it's about understanding who we are. It's about learning from the triumphs and the mistakes of those who came before us. It's about appreciating the forces that have shaped our world. Section 2. Our shared history. History is not just a collection of stories, it's a shared inheritance. It's a conversation that spans generations. It's a reminder that we are all connected. The Louisiana Purchase, a gamble that doubled a nation's size, the Watergate scandal, a reminder that no one is above the law, the Cuban Missile Crisis, a chilling testament to the fragility of peace. These events and countless others have shaped the world we live in. They offer lessons in courage, resilience, and the importance of striving for a better tomorrow. As we move forward, let's carry these lessons with us. Let's learn from the past. Let's engage in the ongoing conversation that is history. And let's work together to build a future worthy of the sacrifices of those who came before us.